The new mini set has been out for more than a week, so now we can really see how the meta formed. In this video I will show you 5 of the best Hearthstone decks right now, as well as their mulligans, win rates, and also some general tips for them. But we will also check out all of the other working archetypes for each individual class. So if you're wondering how your favorite class is doing, stick around to the end. If you're serious about Hearthstone, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Now, let's check out the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list is obviously gonna be Pure Paladin, and to be honest, I really think it's getting nerfed maybe as soon as next Tuesday, so be careful crafting too much about it. But still, it goes without saying, Pure Paladin is just too good right now, and it's literally the best performing deck both in top 1000 Legend as well as from Diamond to Legend, and it's not even close. The deck was super solid before the mini set came out, but the new weapon really took it over the top, like literally. Horn of the Windlord is such a crazy good finisher, but it's also a super good control tool with which you can go through taunts like hot knife through butter. And if you combine this with Feast and Famine as well as Fork Out the Loss, the damage really stacks up very high. With this weapon, you can literally do more than 30 damage from hand, and there's not really much your opponent can do about it. We obviously also have the great 1-drops, Disco Maul is still as broken as ever, Boogie Down thins down the deck really nicely, with Mugborn you can discover some good stuff, the Purator draws so many minions out of this one, Anachronos can reset the boards, the Countess has crazy good legendary discovers with which you can discover so many broken synergies, Leviathan is super good because it gives you card draw as well as it's a good removal, and Light Ray comes down for 0 usually around turn 7. Matchup wise, as you can see, you really don't have bad ones, but the only somewhat bad matchup could be considered Spell Demon Hunter, and it's literally just right under 50, so it's not even a bad matchup. As for the mulligans, going first, here's what it looks like, and if you already have a good curve, Curator can be a great keep. Your good 1-drops are also super good, Boogie Down always great, Disco Maul as well. Depending on the matchup, Blood Matriarch Liadrin could make the cut, and if you already have a good 1-drop, Hand of a Doll can also be great. If you already have a good curve going, Mugborn Servant is also not the worst thing in the world to do on turn 3, but it's obviously no Boogie Down. And when on the coin, the situation looks pretty similar. Curator is still amazing, and you can even consider keeping it without already have a good curve. Class Action Lawyer also becomes somewhat more keepable, but the rest is basically the same. I guess the Countess might also make some sense if you already have a good curve going. For other good Paladin decks right now, we also have a variant without the new weapon, which sounds very weird to me, and the sample size is very small, so you can't really take this deck too seriously right now being better. We also have Mech Paladin doing above 50%, but not by much. But that's about it for Pally right now. There is a Silverhand Pure Paladin as well, but it's right under 50, so not amazing. On the number 2 spot, we have another really good deck right now, which is gonna be Big Beast Hunter. Big Beast Hunter also received a lot of support with the new expansion, both with the new Hollow Hound, which makes it extremely hard for you to actually run out of health, and we also have the new Star Power, which is a very efficient and good removal tool. This is an arcane spell, so that synergizes well with your Halderon, and you also have Conjured Arrow, which also synergizes with him and draws you a bunch of cards. Your early game is super good with the Tormantle Musician, which is a sturdy 1/3 which gives a +1 buff to your next beast, but don't forget this is a finale, so play accordingly. Vicious Litter Spear also synergizes super well both with Bunch of Bananas as well as Barrel of Monkeys, and you can fish out your bananas with your Trinket Tracker. With Selective Reader you can either discover extra copies of the new Hollow Hound, or from Hydrolodon or King Crush. The Wild Seeds package is also pretty good, and also Posicon Curve is super amazing because most opponents really don't know what to do against it. Hope of Kel'Thuzad also helps you have bigger lifesteal with Hollow Hound, but also bigger damage with King Crush, so it's all around a great inclusion. And we have Stranglehorn Heart, so you can revive all of those big beasts. And it's also a tradable, so if you top deck it on turn 1, you can remove it for later use. Matchup wise, here's what the stats show, and Pure Pally is gonna be your only really negative matchup, and by really I mean 46%. But also Thaddeus Warlock might be a bit hard. As for the mulligan, going first, here's what the stats show, and Vicious Litter Spear is amazing, Pozic apparently is also great, but that is to be expected when curving out with him. Spirit Poacher is also pretty good with Wild Spirits as well, Barrel of Monkeys gives you a lot of early game too, the Musician, and heck, even Hope of Kel'Thuzad apparently is not horrible. Halderon also makes some sense to get kept, and Trinket Tracker is also great. If I already have a Naga, I would definitely consider keeping Bunch of Bananas as well. As for when on the coin, the stats are pretty much the same, but as you can see, Vicious Slitter Spear is not as amazing of a keep here, especially if the opponent has a good removal. But then again, you're still always gonna keep it, because what else are you gonna do on turn 1? But also Selective Reader becomes a bit more keepable, and even Star Power might make some sense against certain matchups. For other good Hunter decks, we also have the big variant of Big Beast Hunter with the 40 cards, but it's basically either of these variants right now. On the number 3 spot, we have a different variant of Enrage Warrior popping off, and here we're actually running Treasure Guard because it fits so well on the deck, because it is a Naga, it draws you a card, and it's also nice and tall, so you can actually get it buffed with your Imbued Axe or some other ways. The new mini set gave this deck the new Jam Session, which is a fire spell, and it also gives you a huge buff even though it costs you an overload. But if you actually curve out with this, it can be extremely hard for the opponent to actually remove it. And if you're going second, let's say coining out Extractor into Jam Session can be just game breaking, if the opponent does not have a good card removal for it. Other than that, the rest of the deck looks pretty much the same as it used to be, so no reason to really talk about it too much. And you can just check out my guide about this one. Matchup wise, here's what the stats show from Diamond to Legend. And you don't really have bad matchups again, but Thaddeus Warlock, Pure Pally, and Control Priest might be a little bit on the edge. As for the mulligan, here's what the stats show going first. Tori Belor is extremely powerful, especially when going second if you ask me, but apparently it's great when going first as well. Foul Leg, Anima Extractor, and even Chorus Riff might make the cut, even though it's a little bit iffy, especially if you already don't have a decent curve going. The Imbued Axe is great here, Location as well, and against certain opponents, Embers of Strength can also be great. When on the coin, however, here's what it looks like again, and it's basically the same, but Bridge Riff also becomes great, as well as Sunfury Champion, especially against board-centric matchups like Pure Pally, let's say. Jam Session can also be super good, especially if you have a good minion to pop it off on. As for other good warrior decks right now, Menagerie Warrior is also decent, but apparently it's not as great as I expected. But yeah, for the good variants for warrior, it's either Menagerie or Enrage. On the number 4 spot, we have Unholy Death Knight, and this list is actually using the new Magatha Bane of Music, so you can draw extra cards, which we all know this deck kinda lacked. The only spells you're running in this deck are Plague Strike, as well as Grave Strength, and I've seen some lists also cutting out Plague Strike, so if you feel like you don't want to be messing up your Magatha like that, you might want to cut the Plague Strikes as well. This variant is also using Murlocula, but it's not running the other Murloc package in here. But yeah, the rest of the list looks like standard Unholy DK. As for the matchups, we don't have that much stats yet, but as you can see, Pure Pally is gonna be great for you, which is the biggest selling point right now because it's just so popular. And for the mulligan, we don't have that much stats either, but going first and second, you're definitely gonna want your Bodybagger. Hawkstrider Rancher is usually great. Arms Dealer is also a decent keep, your Battlefiend Necromancer, and also Pozic usually is great too. And when on the coin, Plague Strike becomes a lot more keepable here as well. Bodybagger and Arms Dealer is still great, Battlefiend Necromancer is still probably a keep, and a turn 3 Pozic is also pretty amazing, especially if you already have a curve into it. Hawkstrider is still amazing, and if I already have a good curve, even Nerubian Swarmguard might make the cut for me. For other good Death Knight decks, we also have Frost Death Knight still doing pretty decently, Blood Death Knight is also still out there, but yeah, obviously it's still basically among these 3 decks. There is also this new Egg variant of Unholy Death Knight, but as you can see, it's not doing as great just yet. And on the number 5 spot, honestly a lot of decks could be slotted in this one, but I think Relic Demon Hunter definitely deserves a lot of love here. Relic DH right now is a lot more minion based than it used to be, with the Lady Steno counterpart, but here we have room for enchanters, which are extremely powerful, and they not only amplify the damage from spells, but also from minions and your hero power as well. We're obviously running the good Relic package, and we also have Prosecutor Mel, which, if timed correctly, can really put a kink in the opponent's plan. Especially if you're against something like a Control Priest, let's say. Like, timing this well with a big fat Relic of Phantasms usually renders their removal impossible to use. We also have Zillag in here, which is extreme tempo. Photographer Fizzle can be super good, especially if you use it on a good discounted hand with Relic of Dimensions. And we also have Pozic, and some lists are even running Akani, which can also help a lot. Again, you can check out my deck guide with this one, so you know how to better play with and against it. As for the matchups, again we don't have that much stats here, but you'd be happy to see that it's actually decent against Pure Paladin as well as Blood DK. As for the mulligan, going first and second, you're always gonna want your good relics, with Extinction, the Location, Relic of Phantasms as well. Like, these stats, you should really completely ignore them, they're just not populated enough it seems. Illidari Studies is a decent keep, but you want to be playing it on turn 2 so you can actually use it for card draw. Taste of Chaos is great, Fellerin also amazing keep, and honestly even Talnos is not a horrible keep, because it is card draw as well as a body on the board. And it's also an undead, so you can also follow up with a Nerubian Vizier, which is also pretty decent. 1 on the coin, again your Relic package is great, but here even the 6 mana Relic is great. Fellerin still pretty good, Vizier not a bad keep, Talnos as well still, Taste of Chaos, and Illidari Studies still. For other good Demon Hunter decks, Big Demon Hunter is still poppin', and also Spell Demon Hunter is pretty good, mainly because it's great against pure Paladins right now. Outcast Demon Hunter is also playable, and if you're good with this one, this stat is gonna be a lot higher, but that's about it for Demon Hunter right now. As for the classes we didn't mention, starting off with Druid, we have Big Druid doing okay-ish at about 53%, with a relatively small sample size, and right now that's basically it about Druid. As for Mage, Spooky Mage apparently is the best performer, but the sample size is quite small so I wouldn't really trust it too much. Burn Mage however is doing well, and the rest are just not as good. Naga Mage, not worth it. With Priest right now, Control Priest is doing pretty good, and you can see plenty of people on Top Legend abusing it. Undead Priest is also still decent, even though it's not the powerhouse it used to be. And there's also this new Overkill Priest, which as you can see is not doing as great. For Rogue, Secret Rogue is at the top, even though with a small sample size. Miracle Rogue is doing still okay-ish. Again, not a very high sample size, but at least it's bigger than the other one. Weapon Rogue, not amazing either, so yeah, right now Rogue has seen better days. With Shaman, Totem Shaman is the best pick, but there's also Evolve Shaman popping off somewhat nicely, and it is using some of the new cards here. And there's also this Big Shaman out there, which apparently is not doing great. And for Warlock, we don't really have anything positive anymore, so Thaddeus Imp Warlock was somewhat good, but it doesn't seem to be doing great right now. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this top 5 guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing before the next nerfs happen. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video, or stream.